Welcome back, humans. This is Receive and Capture. Okay, once again, my name is Josh. This is Receive and Capture, and what we are up to here, as always, is the documentation of one person's creative process when making music. So what I wanted to do today was to take a little bit of a look at a sketch that is part of a long distance collaboration that I have with my friend Al, who lives down in Brazil. As this is a really long distance collaboration, it's got a pretty kind of unusual process, I'd say. Al will go out on his porch or be in his living room, and he'll take recordings of himself playing various progressions on his acoustic guitar. And he will record those with the microphone on his phone. He will then take those recordings and text them to me or email them to me. And then I take that source material, I drop it into Logic, and I work with it from there. Now, there are obviously some challenges that are presented in working with source material in this way. And at the same time that there are those limitations, there are also lots of positives. Al's a really talented musician. He's always coming up with like really cool new progressions. And he also has this knack of playing in very odd time signatures, but he isn't doing this deliberately. So part of the fun in working with this material that Al sends me is that I have to kind of listen very closely, often to discern what time signature is he playing in. I will fire texts off to Al and say like, dude, what is this time signature? And he usually just throws up his hands and laughs and is like, I have no idea. I wasn't going for any particular time signature. I was just playing. So the sketch that we're working with today is a perfect example of this. Let's take a listen to that original source material that Al sent me. All right, so that's it. It's more or less, I guess, around 18 bars, I think. And for my count, it's in 7. And once I kind of had that figured out, again, I put it into Logic, and my first move was to say, okay, can I play some drums to this? So as you can hear, it more or less works. I'm able to kind of find a pattern that works with the progression, but there's that little nagging problem of, as Al plays, and because he's not playing to a metronome or a click, the meter will sag for a little bit by 2 or 3 BPMs and then speed up maybe sometimes by 2 or 3 BPMs. So the first challenge is, how do I solve for that problem? And how do I get the meter to be steadier so that the rest of the layers that I put in with this sketch can be a little bit more on time, a little bit more in the groove, and a little bit more predictable? What I did to solve that problem was I went through, the entirety of that source audio, and basically it's just Al playing that progression multiple times over. So I went and listened to see if I could find kind of the parts of the audio recording that were the most steady. I located what I thought, I guess, were, again, the steadiest parts where the BPM was the most solid, and I chopped it up into 3 different parts. Here's that first part. It's 1 chord, Second little section is again one chord. And the third section is like two chords. Once I had those sections neatly divided up, what I did was I took them and I dragged them into a drum kit that I regularly use when building sketches. So I took these sections, I dragged and dropped them here into sections of this drum kit. And the end result of that is that I now have a drum kit which also has those three distinct chordal sections. And they're over here on these three triggers on the drum pad. So here's the first one is here. Second one here. And then the third one here. All right, so the result of it is that now I can play this because the drum, we've got the kick, snare, some hi-hats over here, and a ride. And so the result is that it sounds like this. So that definitely kind of proved to be a good solution to the problem of the meter kind of falling in and out. Because those sections are pretty small, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for the meter to slow down or speed up. And at the same time, I'm kind of playing it at my own pace. It kind of still has a little bit of breath and flex because I'm triggering them according to the beat that I'm already playing on that drum kit. And that really represents what, the hardest piece of work was in working with that material and getting this sketch started up. Let's take a look at the additional layers I put in to round the sketch out. First, I laid in some bass. And then I went ahead and did something that I know I've mentioned on the channel before, which is that I did some whistling. However, some whistling that has a whole bunch of effects plugins stacked up on it. I thought it might be fun to take a listen to what the whistling sounds like completely dry, and then to kind of count each plugin in as we go along so you can hear the difference that each one represents. So this is what the whistling sounds like with just a little bit of gain, compression, and limiting applied to it. Okay, next I'm using a native plugin to Logic, which is just a really simple pitch shifter. I'm taking the pitch and I'm shifting it down by an entire octave, and I'm putting that mix at 50. So we have a mix of kind of the original whistle and then its pitched down version an octave lower. And with that applied, it sounds like this. And the next thing in the chain is a really subtle thing. It's a really cool plugin by Waves called Brower Motion. And essentially what this plugin is doing is it's just taking the audio signal and it's messing with it spatially. So it's really subtly moving where you're hearing the signal at different places in the mix. You can kind of see it represented here in the plugin. Once I start playing the audio, it's just kind of jogging the audio around at different points so that it doesn't really show up in the same place every single time. And that sounds like this. Okay, and then the final piece to this effects chain puzzle is an awesome plugin, again, native to Logic. It's called Chromaverb, and this is my go-to reverb for pretty much everything. I use it on vocals, on synths, on guitars, on drums, And of course, now I'm using it on the whistle, and I'm using a particular reverb that is supposed to be for synths. It's called Grain FX, which is basically like a granulated reverb. And when I play this back, you'll be able to hear the gigantic tail that's on this reverb, which also has some really cool kind of added overtones to it, which give it a really cool character. And that sounds like this. Okay, so that's the effects chain for the whistle track. And the next layer I added was just a really simple pad, courtesy of the Micro Freak, and that sounds like this. And moving on to what I guess is the last layer of this sketch, I went ahead and added a little bit of electric guitar. I just wanted to add a little bit more kind of melodic interest to this tune, a little bit more dynamic range. And on its own, that sounds like this. And then, within the context of the entire song, sounds like this. Okay, so that represents all the work that's been done on this sketch thus far. I love working on this collaboration with Al. Apart from the awesome opportunity that I get to work with a dear friend of mine that lives really far away, I also get the opportunity to kind of like stretch my boundaries a little bit. Because I'm working with source material that's kind of challenging at times, it really does force me to think outside the box, as it were, and to do some different things than I normally would. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's a little bit different than what I've been doing up until now, but as always, I'd like to leave you guys with a bounce of where the sketch sits right now. But before we do that, I want to once again thank you guys for tuning in. I love making these videos. I love having the opportunity to share this process with you guys. If you did like what you heard and saw today, please do like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you guys with the next video soon.